beginning to look a lot like last year. Every game I watch.
I muted my mic instead of turned it on, Eric. What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to the Blazers Uprise post-game show. The Blazers today, as 17-point underdogs, almost beat the Orlando Magic, a playoff team in the Eastern Conference. They fall 104-103. Deandre Ayton misses a game winner at the buzzer. It was a wide open mid-range shot after Scoot Henderson tried to do some Harlem Globetrotters, like get on the floor, behind the back pass. I don't know what the hell that last possession was, but somehow Ayton got the ball wide open midi for the win, Eric, and he almost airballed it. Missed it extremely short-armed it. And given our aspirations to get the third best odds in the lottery, that miss is good for that, because the Blazers honestly can't really afford to win too many more games this year if they want to climb to number 3. They might not be able to afford winning a single game this year, but today, I mean, they looked much, much better than they did a couple nights ago against the other Florida team that they lost to by 60. So this is going to be a quick-hitting post-game show. Going to keep this to about an hour. Going to answer some of your questions. We'll do Tankathon, and then we'll touch upon this game because there actually is some good things to talk about tonight after this one. And shout out to Manta Sleep Mask. You can get 10% off your Manta Sleep Mask order by using the promo code Uprise. Down in the description box below, you can get that link. You can help out the channel, and you can help out yourself get a good night's rest. Eric, man, that was a nerve-wracking game, huh?
Very nerve-wracking. It's like, what are you doing, Magic? What are you doing? Man, they did not look good at all.
No, not at all.
They look terrible, man. But yeah, I mean, that's the kind of game. I mean, we obviously did not want to have a shot at the buzzer from Deandre Ayton to possibly win it, right? But you know, it's good to have them compete in a game and not lose by 60. And have it come down to having to make plays at the end and stuff like that. And until that last possession, they did make a lot of plays in this game, a lot of good clutch moments. But yeah, thankfully they did not have the final one.
Yeah, thank goodness. We'll take a look at the tank picture later because there is some things to update with that, but overall, I mean, this game was basically Deandre Ayton's and Delano Banton's. The Ayton back provides just a veteran that the Blazers need, although Ayton played in the last game when the Blazers got absolutely destroyed by the Miami Heat. Ayton today, much more impactful than he was last game. 20 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, 10 for 18, including that missed buzzer beater. So a good offensive game from him. The Blazers' leading scorer, though, as has been the case in many games recently, Delano Banton, 8 for 17 from the field, 4 for 8 from 3. Continues to shoot the cover off the ball, Eric. Did not expect him to be able to put up the shooting stretch that he has since he's become a Portland Trailblazer. Continues to be the most pleasant surprise of the season, maybe outside of Tamani Kamara, who's now out for the season, unfortunately. 26 points for Banton with his 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks. Not only was he doing it offensively, but he was also making plays on the defensive end, using that length, and just super impactful game off the bench for him, leading this team to what was a almost a win if Ayton can make that wide open midi. So those two guys, as well as Jabari Walker, who had 18 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, filling up the stat sheet for him. 2 for 6
Now
from
he
3, 7
decides
for
to hit
15.
2 threes.
Yeah, now he decides to do something. So those 3 guys, super impressive. Scoot almost gets a triple-double. 6 for 16, 1 for 5 from 3. Not the most efficient night. 5 turnovers. There's 5 fouls as well. Good and bad in Scoot's performance today. But it's really just, man, Ayton, Banton, Walker, the 3 guys that stepped up today.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought Walker was very, I don't know, resourceful. I don't know what the right word is, but like
I think that's a good way to describe him.
He just finds ways to get it, whether it's just like short rimming it and just grabbing the ball back and putting it in. He did a couple times tonight. But yeah, he just always seems to be in the right spot. He had a really nice pass in this game. I think it was him. Somehow found Ayton wide open under the hoop. But yeah, those guys did everything they could to win this game. I was a little. This is going to sound like I'm hating on Ayton, but at the beginning of the game, I was a little disappointed. It felt more like Ayton was settling for a lot of the shots he was settling for earlier in the season. And he got the ball with deep positioning a couple times and did the fadeaway from like 7 feet instead of taking it strong with the little hook shot that he'd been money on for several months now. I was like, dude, come on. Like, you're getting good position. And he got a lob over the top and he ended up shooting a fadeaway on it. I was like, man, why are you shying away from contact? But,
especially going up against Wendell Carter Jr., who's not the biggest center in the league.
Right. So I think I felt like he was a little better in the second half around the rim, but I want him to continue to attack the rim and maybe get some more free throws and stuff. Because if he can ever find a way to consistently get to the line with the way he's shooting the ball, I mean, he'd be pretty much unstoppable if he could do both. And I know that's probably asking too much. Just got to be happy with what you're getting, right? But man, you could see a path to him being one of the most dominant centers in the league if he could just figure out a way to get to the line a little more often.
Yeah, I mean, that's out the window for me. I don't even think about him really shooting free throws a whole lot. And for me, the free throw number isn't necessarily indicative of how aggressive he's being. There's plays where he takes the ball strong, doesn't get fouled. He also had a finish late in this game. It was the final bucket of the game. That was a hit-ahead pass from Banton, good pass from him, and I thought Ayton got fouled on it, and he didn't get to the free throw line. So, yeah, it's still obviously not something he's great at in terms of forcing physicality, which would ultimately lead to him getting more free throws. But 10 for 18, happy with that. It's kind of, there's just a line. There's just a line that he has to follow in terms of utilizing that mid-range shot, which is a weapon for him, and still taking the ball aggressive in situations that he needs to. The problem I've had with mid-range shots with him has always been when he shoots mid-range shots, when he has an opportunity to get a better look by attacking the rim, going up strong, etc. But sometimes the mid-range shot is the shot that's there, so it's a balance for him, and I think he's done a much better job since earlier in the season, and I think, he'll continue to have games where maybe he gets away from it, but recovered. 10 for 18. That's a decently efficient night. It's not great efficiency for a center that didn't get to the free throw line at all and doesn't shoot threes. But you'll take it, especially given some of the poor shooting nights he had early in the season. So I have no problems with this game tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I said, minor gripe. But, he obviously played much better than he did in Miami.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing is, in Miami, effort looked weird, but it was his first game back from injury. So I tend to try and give guys a pass when maybe their conditioning is a little bit subpar because they've been sitting games. So effort tonight in general, I think, was better. And when I was picking this game in picks against the spread earlier today, Orlando was 17-point favorites. I doubled down on them. Silly me. But one of the thoughts I had, though, was like, is the 60-point loss the type of game that'll get this team to be competitive tonight? Because Chauncey, who knows what he said behind closed doors after a loss like that, but the effort was so bad. I could have seen Chauncey lighting into them and them coming out and playing harder today, playing with more consistent effort because of how piss poor their effort was against Miami. And that's basically what it looked like tonight. I feel like a lot of young teams need a little bit of a reality check from time to time, where things get bad enough that you get called out on it, you bounce back from it, you do better in that regard. I think maybe that Heat game was that, but it's funny because earlier in the year they lost to 62 by OKC, and they did not bounce back from that until they were off the road trip. So that's why I took Orlando. I didn't expect them to bounce back from that until they were off this massive Eastern Conference road trip, but they did tonight. Gotta be happy with that, especially if you're rooting for tanking games and losses and as many ping pong balls as possible. This was kind of the perfect game. It was entertaining to watch down the stretch. You had multiple young guys do good things. They came out and battled against a playoff team, the Magic 44-31 now. They have a chance at getting 50 wins. They got to go 6-1 the rest of the season, but they are a borderline 50-win team right there in Orlando. So got to be happy with this being a 1-point loss. You still get the loss on the record, so you're still maximizing your chances to get as many ping pong balls as possible, but much better than the last game. Many more positive things to talk about than the last game, including Banton, man. Eric, what were your thoughts on just his performance tonight, but then in general, like he's stringing together so many of these performances that it's changing the way that I look at him, right? It's one thing to come in and play good for 4, 5, 6, 7 games on a tanking team, but he's 23 games into his Blazer tenure in a Blazer uniform, averaging 15.5 points per game, almost 5 rebounds, 3 assists. He is only shooting 42% from the field and 35% from 3, so the efficiency maybe isn't as quite as good as some of his more recent performances suggest, but he's had, I feel like, more nights recently where he's shooting 50% from the field and shooting a good number from 3, and I think that's just really the key for him right now is the efficiency. So is he kind of changing your perspective on him with some of these performances, and what did you think of him tonight?
I thought he was really good again tonight. Still is more of a microwave scorer than a point guard or a guard, I think, which is fine. There's definitely a role for that. I do wonder if, since it is still a small sample size, if a couple of hot shooting games are just kind of masking there'd be some regression if it was over a full season back to his normal shooting. But yeah, it's hard to say anything bad about him. And I think the fact that we have him for about $2 million next year is a bargain. So we have basically someone who should be a legit bench scorer next year at the very minimum. And I think we probably have one of our rotation spots filled for next year.
Yeah, I think so. It's going to be tough, though. Potential log jam at multiple positions going into next year because the Blazers, as I've said in the past, do have a lot of solid young role player projected guys on the roster, right? They need to find the guy and the number 2 and so forth. Hopefully Anthony Simons can be the number 2 on a contending team one day, or maybe he's already there now. I don't know. But ultimately, that's where the issue lies with this team, is the lack of top-end talent, not the lack of role players like a Delano Banton. It's an interesting point that you made about how his hot shooting nights could be affecting his percentage a little bit, and I just went to his game logs. It's a little worse recently than I thought. Out of his last 7 games, only 2 games has he shot better than 33% from behind the three-point arc, and that was tonight, 4 for 8, and that was Wednesday against the Hawks. He was 5 for 11. His other 5 performances during that stretch, a 1-for-7 night against Miami, a 2-for-9 night against Houston, 1-for-6 against Denver, 2-for-6 against the Clippers the second time they played them, and 2-for-7 the first time they played the Clippers. So the 3-point shot, it's interesting to see where it shakes out. I agree with your notion that he's a bit of a microwave guy. It seems like he's the type of guy that is a rhythm-based player where he'll have some nights where he's just bad from behind the 3-point line, but if you give him enough open shots, he can really get going and have a impressive shooting performance like he did tonight, like he did a couple games ago against the Hawks. And I think that's just good enough to get defenses to have to respect him, which makes it easier for him to drive. And I think on some of these hot shooting nights, he's had massive scoring efforts because he started knocking down threes and defenses have to respect it. Defenses have to play out on him. As I've said with multiple guys, the better shooter you are, the closer defenders have to play to you, the easier it is to beat them off the dribble because they're not giving you a gap defensively. And if you're playing off the ball, they're going to close out on you harder, and you can attack them while they're running out at you. Their momentum works against them. The harder they close out on you, the more they worry about your 3-point shot. So I think with Banton right now is you're seeing him have big games because he's shooting the 3 ball just well enough where defenses have to respect it. He just needs to hopefully find a little bit more consistency, and he needs to remain a 35-36% 3-point shooter because it makes it easier for him to drive, makes it easier for him to collapse the defense, ultimately make plays. And basically everything I feel like starts with his 3-point shot. Now, he's had some decent games. You know, he had a 28-point, 11-rebound, 5-assist game against Houston, 11 for 21 from the field. He's 2 for 9 from 3, so he's still able to get into the paint, make plays, and with his size, ball handling, he should be able to still get downhill a bit. Just definitely easier if he knocks down threes, and it's going to be interesting to see like next year how his shooting compares to his shooting during this stretch, because Eric, hopefully it's not like Josh Hart, because if you remember Josh Hart, when he got here at the trade deadline, shot the 3 ball great while the Blazers tanked, and the following year was scared to shoot a 3. I don't think Banton will have that problem ever, but Hart was basically a non-factor from 3, so still not fully trustworthy of his 3-point shot, but it's a good sign, and it's a good percentage considering the expectations with him coming to Portland.
Yeah, so to me, I find myself wondering, because I feel like he's hit a lot of tough 3-point shots, like on top of just making threes. Like he's hit some really deep threes. He's hit some threes with guys in his face. He's hit some threes like off the dribble. And that's not something he's ever done in his career, any of those things. So I find myself wondering, is he just hitting some insane shots right now? And that's kind of, like making his numbers, or is this something that he could sustain if he is given the opportunity or the green light or confidence, like the Matisse Thybulle, coaches believe in me and want me to shoot the ball if I'm open. I mean, that can make a difference in the mindset and the confidence of a player if you have people telling you, dude, if you're open, shoot the freaking ball. Instead of like, oh, that's not the best shot there, Delano, if you miss,
The thing is with that confidence, though, with Thybulle as an example, this year, 34.6% from 3. For his career, 33.8. So he's basically right in line with his career average. I only think, like, that can only go so far, I feel like, where you have more of a green light, you have confidence. You still have to be able to consistently hit shots, and that goes beyond just the mental side. The mental side of things definitely plays a part in terms of shooting the 3-point ball, but you got to shoot the same way every time. Mm-hmm. Banton, at times, it seems like his shot's a little different. His base is a little different. His follow-through is a little different. So
different angles,
if those inconsistencies remain, I do have questions as to his overall upside as a 3-point shooter. But I do think having a full green light has helped him a bit for sure.
Well, let me ask you a question. And this isn't necessarily, I'm not trying to like knock Banton or anything. But do you think it's like easier to just come in and score the ball on a team like Portland that obviously doesn't really have a scorer, but many scoring options right now, and you're getting to play with like Chris Murray and players like that who don't really have any sort of skill in terms of like getting their shots or creating or anything like that yet. So do you think it's just like a case where this is who he is as a player, or do you think like this just the opportunity, like a lot of players could have come in and like an Antonio Blakeney kind of situation, you know?
Yeah, well, here's the thing with him being given the opportunity he's been given. He has so many chances during the course of a game to get to a spot he likes and take a shot that he likes and build a rhythm through a diet of shots that he's very comfortable with because he has free reign and because he's getting a ton of touches, right? If he's on a better team, he's going to have to play more off the ball. He's going to have to maybe make some plays that aren't his preferred play, right? Catch and shoot, compared to maybe pulling off the dribble, because he seems like a guy, I don't know what the stats say, but he seems pretty comfortable pulling off the dribble. Has knocked down some catch and shoot threes, but you're going to get more shots that are catch and shoot. You're going to have more plays where it's like attack a closeout, get to 15 feet and pull up. He doesn't shoot mid-range pull-ups often unless he can take his time. He doesn't really run directly into mid-range pull-ups. He'd rather actually go across the key and fade a little bit and shoot him that way, right? So some guys prefer different types of mid-range shots. If you're handling the ball and you can, drive to the elbow and then cross over and drive left and get into a little bit of a fadeaway going left, that's different than playing more off the ball where you get the ball kicked to you, guy closes out hard, you attack the closeout, you take one dribble and hit a 15-foot pull-up. It's a different mid-range shot. And that's where it might be a little bit more difficult for him next year if he's on a team with more talent, a team with higher aspirations, is he's going to have to get it more within the flow, and he's not going to be able to pick his exact spots in quite the same way. And that's why I think you see some players on tanking teams without much talent look really good offensively, but then when they're tasked with playing more of an off-ball role and more within the flow of a better team, they don't look like the same offensive player. And you saw that with Josh Hart. You saw that a bit with Skylar Mays last year. Remember, he was averaging like 17 points per game and how many assists? 9 or something over the last 6 games of the season. Sharp tore it up. There is definitely a difference between having free reign on a tanking team that doesn't have much talent on it and being on a better team and having to get your shots more within the flow instead of being able to pick your spots.
Yeah, because next year, I mean, it's realistically he could be in a lineup with Anthony, Shaden, Grant, and Ayton. And like, if he's dribbling in and like shooting all these shots and not passing out of when he's collapsing the defense and he's having an inefficient game, it's like I wonder how both the coaching staff handles that situation and how he personally does in that situation, if he's willing to or able to defer or maybe not force as many shots as he's playing right now, but then that kind of changes who he is as a player. So I'd be really interested to see how it'll be next year.
Yeah, and see, this isn't a shot at reactionary fans, because he is playing well, but the reactionary fans will see the way he's playing and be like, oh, what a steal, this dude is great, and have the exact same expectations for him next year based on his play this year, without taking the context into account that he's going to have to play a little different style offensively, and that could affect his productivity, his rhythm, etc. There's a bunch of stuff that goes into this. So, if you're always just reacting to box scores or this guy played great, and it's that simple, then expectations for him are going to be really high next season. And I do expect him to have a rotation spot. I would not be surprised if he struggled a bit and didn't look quite as good as he does right now. And that's just the tanking effect. That's the putting up numbers on a bad team effect. And, I couldn't really expect him to play any better than he is right now. So this isn't a shot at him. It's more so we don't know exactly what he's going to be next year within the context of a better team. And I'm not going to